The chair will now recognize Ms. Radewagen for 5 minutes.
Talofalaba. Good afternoon. I want to thank you, Chairman Huffman and Ranking Member Don Young, for holding this hearing today. I also want to thank House Dean Don Young for all of his hard work on fisheries management. Administrator Coit, thank you for testifying today. I really appreciated your testimony. Is NOAA in favor of changing National Standard 9 on bycatch to remove the phrase "to the extent practicable" under HR 4690? Or does the agency believe the councils are doing an adequate job of minimizing bycatch and bycatch mortality?
Thank you for that question. So as mentioned, we want to do more to reduce bycatch, and we have made great strides, but I think that everyone is aligned in wanting to further reduce any discards. They all count, so to speak, so they all count against the quota. The opportunity to kind of, and all fisheries have some degree of bycatch. So I think the opportunity to be thoughtful and balance interests and make sure that we continue to work towards reducing bycatch is the goal. As mentioned, I have some concerns about removing the practicability language.
Thank you. And for my second question, Administrator Coit, there are nearly a dozen pages of HR 4690 devoted to harassment and assault prevention, far more than is devoted to stock assessments, cooperative research, data collection, or electronic monitoring. Can you please tell us how common these incidents are inside your agency and the councils in order to warrant such a disproportionate focus of national fisheries legislation?
I will have to get back to you on that issue of the frequency. I can say that we have a zero tolerance policy, and that particularly when there's observers or at-sea monitors, we want to make sure that they're safe. And we do a lot of training and a lot of follow-up, but it has been a problem. And I think making sure that the staff who are federally funded and the people that are out in the, at sea are protected is really important.
Thank you for your response. Dr. Isla, you state in your testimony that you've worked for 33 years with the council. Given this, you must be quite familiar with the Magnuson-Stevens Act and how the council process works. Can you explain in your words what the MSA requires and how the council failed to follow that process? If you had concerns with the process, do you have examples of when you raised these concerns in writing to the council and what the council's response was to those concerns? Dr. Isla?
Yes, thank you so much for the question. Well, Magnuson has changed over the years. So the most current, I think, version of Magnuson includes much more of a requirement for fisheries management plans to consider all of the biological, social, and economic issues. It wasn't always that way. When it first started, it was more about defining maximum sustainable yield and those kinds of things, which really didn't involve ecosystem management. My record for the 30+ years at Westpac is clear. I have testified at numerous council meetings. I would encourage you to take a look at the record. A good example of small boat fishermen like myself who sat and advised Westpac on the Pelagics Advisory Panel is we suggested the use of tuna circle hooks long before the council adopted it, because the council got sued in terms of the bycatch of tuna, the bycatch of cetaceans, false killer whales, other things. If the council had simply taken the advisory panel's recommendation on tuna circle hooks when it was suggested by the advisory panel, I would say that thousands of green sea turtles, leatherback turtles, olive ridley turtles, the small insular population of false killer whales around the main Hawaiian Islands would not have needlessly been killed. So that's one example of what I believe was very cooperative work, giving honest, open advice from fishermen who recognize that a circle hook is less likely to be ingested and therefore increase mortality in these in the bycatch of these fishery, the longline fishery. So there are many more examples, and I would, you know, if you give me specific questions, I'll be happy to respond.
Mhm. And what was the council's response to some of those concerns that you might be able to think of right offhand?
The council
What did they not
ignored
respond?
so the council ignored our suggestions until they were sued by Earth Justice. And I believe a federal judge then required the use of tuna circle hooks as a mitigation measure.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I yield back